The coalition of northern groups has called for the immediate compensation of victims of the Kaduna drone strike, which left scores dead in the Igabi Local Government area of Kaduna State, northwest Nigeria. The coalition, while speaking to newsmen in Abuja, also called for thorough investigation into the strike, saying they want personnel responsible identified, prosecuted, and arrested.
The CND condemns the killing of innocent civilians in the Igabi Local Government area of Kaduna State. The CND strongly rejects the explanation put forth by the military that the Kaduna attack was accidental. The CND condemns the lack of coordination in the operation of the Nigerian armed forces. We call on President Tinubu to prioritize the establishment of a centralized command structure within the security forces. The structure should clearly define the roles and responsibilities of each arm, ensuring effective coordination and collaboration. We call on the government to invest in modern communication systems that enable real-time information sharing and enhance intra-agency cooperation. The CND calls for a comprehensive, transparent, independent investigation into the Kaduna incident to ensure that all those responsible are identified and brought to justice. The CND demands adequate compensation for the victims of the Kaduna killings, not only a means of providing financial support to the affected families, but also a gesture of acknowledgement.
Now, to further discuss this, I'm now joined by security expert Fidelis Ogbobe. Good morning, Fidelis, and thank you so much for joining me on News Central Now.
Thank you for having me this morning.
It's our pleasure. Now, Fidelis, can you tell us what are the key factors that should be considered during a thorough investigation of the drone strike in Kaduna, particularly in terms of identifying the responsible personnel?
I believe that there is a need for us to look at the legal framework that guides the counter-terrorism operation in Nigeria and all over the world. You know that sometime in the year 2000, the United Nations refused to incorporate act of terrorism into the Rome Statutes, which had to do with that created international criminal court. Because the difference between what happened now and act of terrorism is that states had the legitimate power to use force as well, use violence. So if you look at the legal framework that guides that type of operation, that's what will determine who is culpable and who is not culpable. And the issue of the military, they know the command or the section that is responsible for this operation. They know the lapses, whether they are in compliance with the international standard and the guidelines for counter-terrorism operation. And states also haven't failed to develop the capacities of these practitioners. It becomes very, very difficult for them to come down on this individual, because capacity is very, very important, because I believe too that the incident is accidental, but the persons and the practitioners who are responsible for this operation, they may lack capacity. And the United Nations in Resolution 6 by 2881 have also resolved that one of the counter-terrorism strategy is for the state to develop capacities of the individuals or the component agencies that are responsible for terrorism. Because you cannot remove the issue of terrorism and counter-terrorism from the issue of rule of law as well as the issue of human rights. So I believe that it will not be a very difficult thing for the military to identify the individual responsible for this operation. But to event like there is a strategic questions they need to ask to be able to know whether they can actually be culpable or not.
All right, Fidelis, considering the years of insecurity in the northeast and the northwest, and how sensitive and touchy this particular topic is, what would you say are the potential security implications of such a drone strike in the northwest region of Nigeria, especially, you know, coming from the army, who is saddled with the responsibility of protecting citizens?
This issue of drone mishap or accidental discharge by the implementation of the drone technology in the counter-terrorism operation is not new in Nigeria. We have been hearing those incidents. The last time I checked, based on the article on the newspapers. We have about 400 recorded, and many of them are yet to be reported. So we cannot say that it's a new incident. This incident has been happening, but the state that are responsible and the agency responsible to ensure that this incident is being controlled, I don't think they're actually doing much. Secondly, there are going to be issue of distrust between the communities or individuals or Nigerian citizens generally in cooperation and providing effective information and cooperating with these agencies in counter-terrorism operation. Because without the citizens, it will be very, very difficult for the military or any agency responsible to actually carry out an effective counter-terrorism operation in anywhere in Nigeria. But the next question to ask, whether these persons or there is actually a terrorist operation in northwest part of Nigeria. Because looking at the United Nations have actually given some sectorial anti-terrorism definitions and giving the state the opportunity to go back, look at the environmental priorities and define the act of terrorism. So the issue is in northwest of Nigeria, which part of the northwest of Nigeria do I actually say that there is terrorism operation or the act of terrorism that require that type of operation to be carried out by the military? Because you cannot talk about terrorism operation without putting under consideration the legal framework, the human rights, as well as the democratic procedure in counter-terrorism operation. Because if we become so draconian against these individuals, you also destroying the concept of the rule of law as well as the human rights in kind of that operation. Even though states has legitimized or have the legitimacy to use violence, such must be carried within the confines of the law. And if the rule of law is being obeyed to a very large extent, we restore the confidence of Nigeria upon these agencies being saddled with the responsibility of carrying this operation.
All right, Fidelis, I seem to remember a few days ago, the senator representing Kaduna Central came out to say that they would make sure that these people are compensated duly. Now, how do you think that, the victims of this drone strike can be effectively compensated? And, still talking about it, what measures do you think that the army can take in future to be able to, enhance the safety of local communities and prevent similar incidents from happening?
So the issue of compensation, number one, I don't think there's any monetary gain that can actually compensate to the life of an individual. Coming to the fact that the responsibility of the state is to the protection of the life and citizen of the people, which they have failed to do. Going back to the what we may call the Hobbisan theory, that the responsibility of the state is to ensure the protection of the people, and that's why citizens have given their right to the government, to enable government to protect them. Because life as then were so brutish and bloody. So state haven't failed to actually protect this life and state become the takers of the life of individual. I don't think that there's a compensation that will be adequate. But under the circumstances, I believe that the Kaduna State government or even the local authority have the responsibility to go down to the community, ensure that there's a direct relationship and communication with the victim's family to ensure that whatever government is going to do to prevent education will assuage their grievances and reintegrate them in the process, in the fight against terrorism. Then going forward, I believe there is a lack of coordination within the security agencies, because in that particular local government, I believe that in everywhere in Nigeria, there is always a police division, especially in the local government, every local government in Nigeria. In those police divisions, they also have responsibility to be part of the community. The question that needs to be asked, whether there is a relationship or a relation between the divisional police officer of that local government with that operation, or whether police or even the civil defense authority or other intelligence agencies in Nigeria were actually part of that operation that have led to this colossal damage, which will be very difficult for us to actually give adequate compensation to the life of individuals. Therefore, my recommendation is very simple. Let there be synergy. We know that we have been settled with the security issues in Nigeria, but let there be synergy between the security agencies to ensure that this type of thing will not happen again, thereby bringing people back to the system and restoring the confidence Nigeria have always have on their security agencies. And actually the whole intent is actually
all right, Fidelis, thank you so much for your time and also your expert's opinion on this issue.
Thank you very much for having me.